Greetings, everyone. Thank you guys for taking your time out of your busy schedules to meet with me and the team regarding this communication strategy briefing. I am Chance Boyd, the Internal Crisis Management Director, and without further ado, we would like to start our presentation regarding the communication strategy. So, the purpose of me being here today is to brief you guys on implementing the communication strategy that we think will be very effective in mitigating some of the risks that have been brought up due to our organizational failure. If you guys are not aware, we did experience a breakout where 400,000 of our current clients and residents did face a blackout, where they were not able to have power and they were deprived of some of their basic day-to-day activities that does require power. So our objective here today is very simple. We want to make sure that we deploy a strategy that allows us to restore our financial as well as just our reputational stability. So on the next slide, we're going to get into a little bit about what the communication strategy features, as well as, who it targets and things like that. So, our main message within the entire communication strategy is really emphasizing our three core values, which are safety, transparency, and accountability. So, we want to restore all stakeholder confidence, like I said, anchored in these three non negotiable standards. Additionally, our core goal in implementing this strategy is moving from a state of crisis to a state of recovery. So, by implementing these three pillars and implementing these pillars throughout our main message, we strongly believe that we'll be able to mitigate all damages through the implementation of this communication strategy. So we have identified three critical groups as our audience for the communications plan. We feel like identifying these three stakeholder groups is important. And it also is a part of our communication strategy overall, just identifying who's going to be affected and what particular activities can we specifically focus towards these target groups to have the most effective outcome. So these critical groups include our customers, our investors, as well as our employees. So our customers and investors will be our external stakeholders, and then our employees and management will be our internal stakeholder group. And we'll touch on this a little bit in the next slide, but we want to diversify the way that we're reaching out to these groups. We want to make sure that we reach out to them and we focus on the areas that affect each group the most. And that is the way that we feel like we'll be able to get the most value out of this communication strategy. So like I mentioned in the previous slide, we are tailoring our approach to the specific interests of each group, using the specified channels to ensure that all audiences are accurately informed. So we have identified the following three channels as being the most effective to the targeted stakeholders that we identified on the previous slides. And these channels include media broadcasts, social media sites, as well as internal communication. And you can see listed below the different types of particular activities that we plan on implementing per each group. I want to kind of highlight our internal communication channel, which I feel is going to be very important when it comes to making sure that our employees are satisfied and they still have trust and confidence that this is a wonderful organization to work for. And also we're going to have live Q&A sessions just to make sure that if they have any urgent or direct issues that they want to handle directly with the crisis management team, they do have a platform to kind of reach out and get those issues handled as soon as possible. Our primary objective within implementing this communication strategy, again, is just making sure that we're restoring that stakeholder confidence within Horizon Energy. A common theme within crises as big as this one is stakeholder confidence as well as the reputation of an organization can quickly decline, and that could lead to operational losses and sometimes even close of business. So we want to make sure that we continue to get revenue, we continue to have employees that are motivated for working for the organization. We want to make sure that investors are continuously motivated in investing in our community and within our organization. And we also want to just make sure that our customers feel satisfied that we're a safe organization that can continue to provide them with great services. And we're also transparent whenever we do have problems. So I kind of touched on that prematurely, but at the bottom you can see our intended outcomes, and some of that includes immediate understanding. We want to make sure that immediately our crisis has been going on for around 24 hours now. So we want to make sure that we have enough time to make sure that we cover all bases within a short amount of time. Standard with crisis management kind of ranges from 24 to 72 hours. So we want to make sure that our audience understands quickly that our organization prioritizes safety. Again, we want to make sure that our employees desire to remain with the company. And that's a big one that we want to focus on as well, because without employees that desire to remain with the company or are motivated to produce efficient work, we are not existing. We no longer exist as a company when we don't have motivated employees. And lastly, we want to make sure that our reputation is as spotless and as good as we can make it. We just want to make sure that we stabilize what we've built thus far. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of this financial strategy briefing, which is the crisis budget allocation as well as just financial metrics. We are asking for a little over $3 million. And I know this seems like a very significant ask, but I promise you the return on investment is even larger. We calculated in some of our previous meetings that we've had over the last week and a half, and what we've noticed is that there is a significant return on investment. We will touch on the cost benefit analysis metrics a little bit later, but what I will say is the return on investment is significant. Our largest category within our budget is our core personnel and expertise, which is over $1.5 million. And we just kind of want to focus on making sure that we hire the best personnel, whether that's external personnel or whether that's grouping someone that's already within the firm. Just making sure that we're getting the right personnel to make sure that when we do implement this crisis management plan, that we are allowed to achieve all of our intended objectives. So that is why our financial ask is so large, but we guarantee that there will be a significant return on investment. If you guys are interested, we have provided our detailed budget within the appendix, and we will send this PowerPoint out later, so you guys don't have to go look now, but we will provide that detailed budget as well if you guys are interested into all of the intricate details and breakdowns of the budget. We previously covered the $3.5 million ask within our budget, which, while significant, we do understand that the return on investment is massive. Our cost benefit analysis, like we discussed previously, does show a ratio of nearly 10, which is 10 times the standard average. This basically means that for every dollar invested, we will potentially be preventing $9.52 in loss. As you can see on the left in that graph, the cost of inaction is $30 million. This means that if we do not implement a strategy to stop the bleeding, we'll potentially be losing $30 million. And this includes loss in sales, lawsuits, things of that nature that takes place after these crises are unmanaged. So that is kind of why we want to make sure that when we're making a decision on whether or not to implement this communication strategy, we consider that cost of inaction. Again, this investment is critical and it must be made immediately to stop the further damage. I want to emphasize that we have already lost $10 million in losses due to this crisis, which is highlighted in that red dotted line. And so, as you can see on the bottom left, that blue column right here, which shows our investment is significantly lower than what we would potentially be losing if we do not react immediately and implement this plan. So why will this work? Why do we have to implement a communication strategy? Well, a communication strategy does a couple of things, but mainly we want to emphasize that this strategy prioritizes internal confidence as well as ensures transparency. Additionally, it reduces loss and stabilizes reputation. Implementing this plan will allow us to mitigate non-financial losses like brand trust, but it'll also reduce loss, which will overall benefit the company's financial and reputational health on a long-term basis. So not only will it allow us to prevent losses in the short term, but it'll also allow us to grow and thrive in the long term as well. Our roadmap is clear, and with this communications plan, we will be able to effectively communicate to all stakeholders to ensure buy in from all parties. We have listed a three-phase approach that begins within 24 to 48 hours of the crisis and lasts all the way to the next 6 months. So we want to make sure that we have your buy-in and we have your support to implement this communication strategy so that we can begin to be on our road to recovery. In summary, we have the strategy, the financial justification, as well as the roadmap to navigate Horizon Energy out of this crisis. So I just want to thank you guys for taking your time out of this day to listen and understand why the communication strategy briefing is important. And we hope that you guys decide to implement this communication strategy so we can start working on mitigating this crisis as soon as possible. Again, I want to thank you for your time, and we will now open the floor for any questions.